The sun hung low above the dusty plains of Lambasa, painting the sky in molten gold. In the middle of the noise and color sat Keto, a young mechanic whose hands were forever marked by oil and grease, his spirit heavy with dreams that never seemed to come true. He sat beneath the crooked tamarind tree that shaded his small workshop, wiping sweat from his brow as his old phone buzzed with notifications. His customers had gone for the day, leaving only silence, flies, and the faint hum of the evening. Absent-mindedly, he scrolled through his feed until a post caught his eye. Bright red letters shouting at him through the screen. Win a brand new motorbike. Follow, share, and tag 3 friends. His breath caught. A motorbike. For Keto, that was more than just a prize. It was freedom. He could travel faster, earn more, and finally take his mother to the city hospital she'd always dreamed of visiting. The account name was A Gift of Fortune _Africa, with thousands of followers and pictures of smiling winners holding their shiny new bikes. He stared for a moment, feeling a rush of hope he hadn't felt in years. Maybe this is my chance, he whispered. He followed the page, shared the post, and tagged 3 friends, laughing to himself at how easy it was. Within minutes, a message popped into his inbox. Congratulations, Keto. You have been selected as one of our top finalists. To claim your reward, please verify your entry by sending a small confirmation fee of 500 shillings before sunset. Keto's heart began to race. The message felt real, and the words before sunset echoed in his head like a ticking clock. He glanced up at the sky. The sun was already touching the edge of the horizon. He knew 500 shillings was not much, but to him it was his meal money for the next 2 days. Still, the thought of a brand new motorbike made him feel alive, powerful, lucky. He hurried to the nearest mobile money kiosk, handed the crumpled notes to the agent, and sent the payment to the number in the message. His fingers trembled as he clicked submit. The page refreshed once, then again, and then, without warning, it went blank. The logo vanished. The account disappeared. The message thread was gone. He stared at the phone in disbelief, refreshing again and again until his thumb hurt. The market noise around him began to fade. The evening air grew cold. He could hear the faint sound of a drum from a distant village, a wedding, perhaps, but inside him, a different rhythm had begun to beat fear. He had been tricked. Slowly, shame crawled over him like a shadow. He walked home in silence, his phone pressed tightly in his hand, his mind replaying every step of the moment he believed. When he reached the small clay house at the edge of the village, his mother was sitting by the fire, weaving baskets under the dim orange glow of a lantern. She looked up and smiled, her eyes soft but tired. "You're late, my son," she said. "Did you fix the bicycle today?" Keto nodded faintly. "Tomorrow," he whispered. He didn't have the courage to tell her what he had done. That night, as the crickets sang outside and the moon cast its pale light across the mud walls, Keto lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His mind wouldn't rest. There was something unfinished about the whole thing, something that didn't make sense. People who give away fortunes don't just vanish. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice told him that his story with Gift of Fortune wasn't over yet, that in some dark room, behind the glowing screens of strangers, someone still knew his name, his number, his hope, and before the next sunrise, they would reach out again The next morning came with a pale sun and a cold wind that brushed across the red dust of Lambasa. But for Quito, the world felt heavier, quieter, as though the spirits of the night had stolen his peace. He hadn't eaten. Sleep had been nothing but a parade of restless thoughts and whispers that felt too real to ignore. The voice that spoke in his dreams was low and smooth, saying only, "Your prize waits in the shadows." He woke with sweat beading his forehead, his mother's gentle humming from the kitchen doing little to calm the storm in his chest. As he stepped outside, the village buzzed like always, goats bleating, children running barefoot, the smell of porridge and smoke floating through the air. Yet Quito felt detached, as if he were walking through a dream. He reached his workshop, the place that once gave him comfort, and sat by his toolbox, staring blankly at his phone. Then, as if on cue, it vibrated. A message. The name on the screen froze his breath. Gift of Fortune official. He blinked twice, thinking his eyes were playing tricks, but no, the account had returned, with the same golden logo and a new message that read, "Dear Quito, your payment was received. Congratulations once again. You are now our verified winner. Please contact our support team for the delivery process." His hands trembled. Could it be real after all? He clicked the link, and it led to a chat window where a profile named Support Representative Nuru appeared. The man's words came fast and warm. "Brother Quito, we apologize for the delay. We had many winners, but your prize is ready now. You only need to send a small customs clearance fee to 1,000 shillings to release your motorbike from the depot in Nairobi." Quito's throat tightened. He knew it sounded wrong, yet his heart still wanted to believe. He thought of his mother, how proud she would be if he brought home that motorbike. "You promise it's real?" he typed. The reply came instantly. "As sure as the rising sun, brother. We never fail our winners." The words were poetic, almost comforting. Quito closed his eyes, trying to silence the voice of doubt. He borrowed the money from his friend, Mosey, promising to pay it back within the week, and sent it through the same kiosk. "They say they'll deliver it today," he told Mosey with a shaky grin. The friend nodded slowly, though suspicion flickered in his eyes. Hours passed. The sun rose high, then began to fade again. Quito sat under the same tamarind tree, waiting for the sound of an engine, for the arrival of the motorbike that would change his life. But as darkness crept across the sky, the only sound he heard was the rustle of wind through dry leaves. He refreshed the chat again and again, until the profile vanished, gone, deleted. He felt his stomach twist as he realized he had done it again. The phone slipped from his hand, falling into the dust. Above him, thunder grumbled in the distance, the sky turning an angry purple. Then, as lightning flashed across the horizon, a strange thing happened. Another message appeared, not from Gift of Fortune, but from an unknown number. It said, "We warned you, Quito. The gift you seek belongs to us now." His heart froze. He looked around the empty street, but no one was there. The wind howled, carrying with it a faint whisper that sounded almost like laughter. The spirits of the air seemed to move differently that night, circling the tamarind tree where he sat. Quito picked up his phone slowly, his breath shallow, his pulse pounding in his ears. In the reflection of the screen, he thought he saw something, a face behind his own, faint, watching him through the glass. He blinked, and it was gone. The night deepened, and somewhere beyond the hills, drums began to beat, slow, steady, and hollow, like the heartbeat of something ancient waking from sleep. Night had settled like a heavy blanket over Lambasa, and the wind moved restlessly through the narrow alleys between mud houses, carrying the scent of rain and fear. Quito sat alone inside his small hut, the only light coming from the flicker of his dying lantern. His phone lay before him, face down on the mat, as though even he was afraid to look at it. That message, "The gift you seek, belongs to us now," echoed again and again in his mind. He had told no one, not even his mother, who slept quietly in the next room. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, and the tamarind tree swayed like it was whispering secrets to the storm. Quito reached for his phone at last and turned it on. The screen came alive, and for a second everything seemed normal. No strange messages, no glowing eyes behind reflections. But then, without warning, the phone buzzed, and a new notification appeared. It was a video file, unnamed, sent from a blank number. He hesitated, his thumb trembling above the play button. Then he pressed it. The video opened to show a dark room lit by a single candle. The camera shook slightly, and in its faint light, Quito could see something hanging on the wall, an old mirror, cracked and blackened with age. Then a voice spoke, deep and grainy. "You wanted the gift of fortune, Quito, but every gift has a price." Quito's heart stopped. The candle in the video flickered violently, as if reacting to his fear. And then, in the reflection of the mirror, he saw his own face, the same scar on his cheek, the same eyes, but the reflection smiled while he did not. He dropped the phone instantly, breathing hard. "No, no, this is not real," he whispered to himself. But when he looked back, the video had vanished. Only the words delivered 2 minutes ago remained. The air in his hut grew colder. He could feel the heaviness of something unseen, like the weight of invisible eyes pressing against his back. He stood and went to the door, peering into the rain. Lightning flashed across the sky, and for a brief second he saw it, a figure standing beneath the tamarind tree, still as stone. Its face was hidden under a hood, its hands glinting with something metallic. Quito stumbled backward, heart hammering, as thunder exploded overhead. When he looked again, the figure was gone. Only the tree remained, bending against the wind. Desperate, he ran to his mother's room, shaking her awake. "Mama, someone is outside." She sat up slowly, blinking. "Quito." "There's no one," she murmured. But when she looked into his eyes, her face changed. "Who have you spoken to, my son?" she asked softly. He hesitated. "They said I won the motorbike," they said. Her voice cut through him, sharp and fearful. "Did you send them anything?" Quito nodded. She closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. "You have called something here, Quito. The spirits of greed walk with men who seek fortune from strangers. You must not answer them again." But it was already too late. The phone buzzed once more, glowing bright in the dark room, vibrating with unnatural energy. Slowly, against his will, Quito picked it up. The screen showed a single word, "Run." His throat tightened. He looked out the doorway. The rain had stopped. The night was silent. Then, from somewhere deep within the shadows, came the faint sound of a motorbike engine starting. The night stretched endlessly over Lambasa, the air thick with silence and the metallic scent of rain. Quito stood frozen at the doorway, the faint sound of that motorbike engine humming somewhere in the distance. His breath came in shallow bursts. Every muscle in his body locked between fear and disbelief. He wanted to tell himself it was only his imagination, that no one could have come for him, that no curse could crawl out from the wires of a phone. But deep inside, something ancient stirred, something that knew the line between man and spirit had been crossed. Slowly, he stepped into the muddy street, the ground soft beneath his bare feet. The village was asleep. Only the dim lanterns from a few homes still glowed like tired eyes. And then, faintly, the engine grew louder, not approaching, not fading, just circling, as if the night itself was breathing around him. He gripped his phone tightly and whispered, "Who are you?" as if the shadows might answer. The device flickered, its screen lighting up on its own. A chat box opened, the words appearing one by one, as though typed by invisible hands. "We gave you a chance at fortune, Keto, but you chose fear." He stepped back, heart hammering in his chest. "What do you want from me?" he muttered, voice cracking. The reply came instantly. "We want what you offered, your trust, your name, your soul, in the web of fortune." Keto dropped the phone into the mud, panic surging through his veins. He turned and ran toward his workshop, the familiar smell of iron and oil grounding him for a brief moment. He slammed the door shut and pressed his back against it, chest heaving. The wind outside moaned through the cracks, but another sound began to rise, a whispering, like static, coming from inside his locked toolbox. Slowly, cautiously, he opened it. Inside lay his phone, even though he had left it outside in the mud. The screen was still on, and this time it showed a live video feed, the tamarind tree outside his hut, swaying in the wind. Beneath it stood the same hooded figure, motionless. Then, in a voice that didn't come from the phone's speaker, but from everywhere at once, the man spoke. "Keto, do you know the price of greed?" Keto stumbled backward, knocking over a table, sending tools clattering to the floor. "Leave me alone," he shouted. The figure in the video tilted its head slowly, like a predator studying its prey. "You sought fortune in shadows, and now the shadows seek you." The video went black. His phone vibrated violently, heating in his hand until it burned. He dropped it, and it shattered against the concrete floor, splitting in two. But even then, the voice did not stop. It was inside him now, whispering from the corners of his thoughts, coiling around his heartbeat. "Mama," he whispered, stumbling toward the door, desperate to find her, to leave this place, to run anywhere the wind would carry him. But when he opened the door, the night outside had changed. The tamarind tree was gone. The street was gone. Instead, there was a road stretching into a horizon made of light, golden, endless, but wrong. And in the middle of that road sat the motorbike, gleaming, perfect, waiting. Keto's mouth went dry. He took a step forward, drawn by something beyond control. The voice spoke again, calm now, almost kind. "Ride, Keto. The gift is yours. Ride, and never look back." His hand reached toward the handle, the engine revving softly, as if it recognized him. For a moment, he saw himself reflected in the chrome, not the Keto he knew, but one with eyes black as coal. The voice laughed, echoing across the empty horizon. And then, just as his fingers brushed the metal, the lights went out, and the world fell into silence. The golden road stretched endlessly before Keto, glowing beneath a sky that had no stars and no wind. It was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the kind that hums beneath your skin, the kind that waits. Quito stood at its edge, barefoot and trembling, his heart beating in rhythm with the low purr of the motorbike before him. The machine shimmered like something half born of metal and half of spirit, its chrome surface breathing faintly, as if alive. He wanted to turn back, to run, but when he looked behind him, the village was gone. No tamarind tree, no huts, no light, only darkness, endless and hungry. The voice came again, this time closer, whispering, not through the phone or the wind, but through his own heartbeat. You wanted the gift of fortune, Quito. Every gift carries a path. Walk it. His body moved on its own. He swung a leg over the bike, the cold seat biting into his skin. The engine rumbled beneath him, deep and low, vibrating through his bones. He pressed the ignition. The world around him blurred, the road ahead bending and twisting like a serpent of gold. The faster he rode, the louder the whispers grew, not in words, but in sounds, laughter, weeping, faint echoes of people calling his name. He tried to focus, gripping the handlebars tighter, but the scenery began to shift. Trees of light rose on either side of him, their branches like stretched hands reaching for his soul. Faces flickered within them, faces of strangers, of those who had once fallen for promises like his. Their mouths moved silently, eyes filled with sorrow. The road beneath him began to crack, bleeding light instead of dust. "What is this place?" Quito cried out, but his voice vanished in the rush of the wind. Then, ahead, he saw something, a figure, standing in the middle of the road, small, unmoving. As he drew closer, his chest tightened. It was his mother. She was barefoot, her wrapper whipping in the invisible wind, her eyes glowing faintly with the same golden light that lined the road. "Mama," he shouted, slamming the brakes. The bike screeched and stopped inches before her. She didn't move. Her voice was soft, like a whisper from another world. "My son, why do you chase what is not meant for you?" Tears welled in his eyes. "They promised, Mama. They said I would win." Her head tilted slightly. "And what have you won, Quito?" The road around them began to ripple, the golden light dimming, cracks widening like wounds. "You must leave this place," she said. "You have followed a path made by liars, and each mile you ride feeds their hunger. Go back before the road closes." But when Quito looked around, the darkness behind him had already swallowed the path. "I can't," he whispered. "There's nowhere to go." His mother's eyes softened. She stepped closer, placing a hand on his chest. "Then remember who you are. The gift of fortune is not found in hands that take from others. It lives in the sweat of your work, in the love you give freely. Wake up, my son." Her voice grew faint, like smoke dissolving into the wind. "Wake up," Quito blinked, and suddenly the road, the bike, the light, all of it shattered. He fell through the void, spinning, falling faster and faster, until his back slammed against the hard floor of his hut. The phone lay beside him, its screen cracked, displaying a single message: "Final stage complete. Thank you for participating." His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the words, unsure if he had truly returned, or if he had simply awakened in another dream. Dawn crept slowly into Lambasa, brushing the earth with pale light. But Quito sat motionless in his hut, staring at the cracked phone before him. His breath was shallow, his body trembling. his mind torn between two worlds, the one he could touch and the one that had touched him. The message still glowed faintly on the broken screen. Final stage complete. Thank you for participating. He read it over and over, each word heavier than the last. His mother's soft footsteps broke the silence. She entered the room carrying a bowl of porridge, her eyes tired yet kind. You didn't sleep. Quito looked up, his lips dry. Mama, I saw things. She placed the bowl beside him and sat down. You saw what greed shows to those who listen to whispers, she replied. But you came back. That is what matters. He wanted to believe her, but something inside him still trembled, something that felt unfinished. As he lifted his gaze, he saw his reflection in the shattered phone screen. For a moment, the reflection didn't move with him. Its lips curved into a faint smile before vanishing. He dropped the phone instantly, his heart pounding. Mama, it's still there, he whispered. She turned to him sharply. Do not speak to it, she said. It feeds on your fear. She rose, took a small clay pot from the shelf, and sprinkled ash mixed with herbs into the corners of the room. The air filled with a bitter scent, and for a moment the shadows seemed to retreat. But the silence that followed was not comforting, it was waiting. That night, as the moon rose high and pale, Quito sat outside beneath the tamarind tree that had once brought him peace. The phone lay beside him, its battery long dead, its surface cracked like dry earth. The wind was soft, carrying the sounds of the sleeping village. And then, from the darkness, he heard it again, the faint hum of a motorbike engine. His chest tightened, but this time he didn't run. He stood tall, his feet firm on the ground. The sound grew closer, then stopped. From the shadows, a dim light appeared, not golden this time, but silver and cold. A figure stepped forward, the same hooded shape he had seen before. You escaped the road, the voice said, low and steady. Few ever do. Quito's hands clenched. Why me? He asked. The figure tilted its head. Because you believed. You gave us power when you offered your trust. You opened the door. The air shimmered, and suddenly the motorbike appeared beside the figure, the same gleaming machine, perfect as before. Take it, the voice urged. It's yours now. No tricks, no price. Quito stared at it, his pulse hammering in his ears. The desire returned, sharp and hot, the dream of freedom, of pride, of proving everyone wrong. He could almost feel the wind against his face. But then, behind the voice, he heard his mother's prayer echo through the night. He closed his eyes. No, he said softly. Keep it. I don't want it anymore. The figure went still. The air grew colder. Then, slowly, it began to fade, its shape dissolving into mist. You will regret this, the voice hissed. Fortune never forgives those who refuse her. And then it was gone. The night returned to silence. Quito fell to his knees, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He whispered a prayer of thanks, not to the spirits of fortune, but to his ancestors, those who had survived the temptations of false gods and empty promises. When morning came, he buried the phone under the tamarind tree, sealing it with stones and soil. Days turned into weeks, and though the whispers sometimes returned in his dreams, he learned to ignore them. He went back to his workshop, back to his tools, and when he worked, he felt something new in his hands, strength. Not from gold, not from luck, but from knowing that some gifts are never meant to be taken. And somewhere deep beneath the earth, where the phone lay buried, a faint vibration pulsed one last time before going silent forever.